Hello, my name is Laura Suhawk, and today I'm going to talk about Larry Kramer, more specifically, his speech, The Tragedy of Today's Gays. Larry Kramer once said, "I was able to support myself as a writer, and I didn't feel particularly ostracized. It wasn't until AIDS came along that I was faced with the very stark reality that it didn't make any difference if I had money in the bank or had gone to Yale. My success wasn't going to make anybody pay attention to what was happening." Larry Kramer was born in 1935 in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and he had graduated from Yale in 1957 with a Bachelor of Arts. He began his career writing screenplays and novels, mostly about topics relating to homosexuality. Some of his works were Woman in Love, which was nominated for 4 Oscars, Faggots, The Plague, The Making of an AIDS Activist, and The Normal Heart, an autobiography about his gay life. His speech, The Tragedy of Today's Gays, took place at Cooper Union, New York on Sunday, November 7th, 2004. It was presented by the HIV Forum in conjunction with NYU's Office of LGBT Student Services, Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, Callan Lord, and Gill Foundation. It was a 90-minute speech explaining his thoughts on the recent rejection of the legality of gay marriage and the spread of AIDS and the harmful effects of the only medications that can save their lives. 900 people showed up to the event, 400 were turned away, nobody walked out, according to reports. In Kramer's speech, he used the methods of rhetoric: ethos, pathos, and logos. He used ethos properly by providing clear facts and personal stories about himself as a gay man and his friends. Also, he was very qualified because he was the author of works that discuss or touch upon homosexuality, for example, Faggots and The Normal Heart. In reference to pathos, he connects on a personal level, sharing emotional stories about his own fight with AIDS and how it has negatively affected his everyday life and the lives of his loved ones. Kramer expresses his love of gays and being gay and explains how they are smarter and more talented and more aware than others. He uses repetition to express the fact multiple times in his speech until he finally expresses near the end that he isn't proud anymore because gays are depleting due to AIDS and abuse from our own country. Larry Kramer isn't afraid to talk about death. He talks about his friends that he has lost and the fear of death of his own life. Kramer is direct about how horrible the medications make him feel and how important it is for the gay community to use protection and the freedom that they were robbed of. Kramer goes on to explain how he was hurt by the medicine, he was unable to leave his bed, and his loved ones had to care for him, especially his partner, and in 2013, his official spouse and husband, David Webster. Kramer states that you are murdering each other by spreading the disease, whether it be knowingly or not. There is still a responsibility. The gay community should know better. Unfortunately, the media did not express the urgency of the AIDS outbreak, and therefore, people did not take it so seriously. Kramer once said that, "I have recently gone through my diaries of the worst plague years. I saw day after day notation of another friend's death. I listed all the ones I'd slept with. There were a couple hundred. Was it my sperm that killed them? That did the trick? It is no longer possible for me to avoid this question of myself. Have you ever wondered how many men you killed? I know I murdered some of them. I just know. You know how you sometimes never know things? I know. Several hundred over a bunch of years. I have had to have murdered some of them, planting in him the original seed. Logos was the least used of the rhetoric skills that Kramer had announced in his speeches. He did, in fact, give legitimate reasons and facts of the number of people infected and killed by AIDS. Not only the people, but also the side effects and the potential dangers of the AIDS medication. He did seem to focus mostly on pathos. He wanted to connect to the viewers and the listeners on a personal level and share his knowledge, his insight, and his facts to all of the people that were attending. He really cared about the gay community. He wanted other people to care, and they deserve to be cared about. In the years that Kramer had made this speech, just 5 days before, George W. Bush was reelected as President of the United States, crushing the hopes of a Democratic leader assisting in the war on AIDS. Any hope of legalization of gay marriage was immediately out the window. The vice president himself had a lesbian daughter that sparked controversy when Cheney, the vice president, was open about rejecting her sexual orientation. The AIDS epidemic was at an extreme high in 2004. 31 million people died that year due to AIDS. 39.4 million people were infected that year, and 4.9 million of those people were infected that year. Kramer had to give the speech. He had to give it for the hope of saving all of the gay community. If this was not known, then many people would have died. The New York Times itself did not talk about AIDS until 2 years after the epidemic. It was truly an epidemic in all ways. It killed millions of people, and it could have been avoided if the government had stepped up and done their duty. Kramer steps up to the plate where the government had failed to do so. He took charge and he let the world know about AIDS and how it was hurting the gay community and how it was hurting himself. He wanted something to be done about it, and so his speech rocked the world. It was such an inspirational moment for everyone in the United States, whether they be gay or just supporting the gays. He is truly a civil rights leader for the gays themselves, but not only the gays, the bisexual, the transvestites. All of these people were affected by AIDS, and although they weren't talked about as much, they were part of the movement. We thank Larry Kramer for everything that he has done, and we are happy that there is finally being action taken place to this. Thank you.